Imagine your income was 10 crore rupees a day. You were earning 10 crores today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, day by day, every day you were earning 10 crores. How much time do you think it would take to reach $1 trillion? How much time would it take? 10 years? 20 years? 50 years? 100 years? The right answer is 2,466 years. If you were earning 10 crore rupees every day, it would take 2,466 years to reach $1 trillion. Why am I saying this? Because Elon Musk, the current richest man of the world, whose net worth is around $470 billion, is set to become the first trillionaire in history. We are discussing this because if we see the top 5 people, the top 5 richest people of the US and India, there is a big fundamental difference. You see, when you see the top 5 people in the US, whether it is Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, and if we see the Indian chart, now you see, in case of the US, this extreme wealth is due to creation of high intelligence, intangible assets like softwares, algorithms, AI, brand ecosystems, etc. I mean, the rise of companies like Nvidia, Tesla, or Amazon has created entirely new categories of consumption and industry. Now, conversely, if we see in case of India, the top billionaires here have large conglomerates that are deeply rooted in the physical world. They control ports, airports, steel plants, petrochemical industries, telecommunications infrastructure, etc. Now, while success in these fields do require talent and hard work, which is obvious, but on top of that, you need capacity utilization, scale, and the ability to navigate complex government regulations regarding land acquisition, environmental clearance, export-import duties, taxes, etc. So while these physical infrastructure is extremely essential for the success of a nation, what we see that in case of India, the wealth generation is not innovation-driven. It is more factor-driven. Why, despite having one of the world's largest STEM talent pools, we are still lagging behind in innovation and deep tech? Why there is no Indian Google? Why there is no Indian Tesla, Indian Nvidia? So let's look into some reasons and solutions. The number one factor impacting India is the very, very less investment in terms of R&D, research and development. Now see, the Economic Survey of India 2023-24 highlights that India's gross expenditure on R&D is approximately 0.64% of its GDP, while in case of US it is close to 3.47%. Now this is on top of the fact that the US is almost 8 times the size of the GDP of India. So the sheer difference of scale of investment into R&D is staggering. Again, 75% of investment into R&D in the US is done by private companies, while in case of India it is only 36%. So this has meant that the quality and output of research has not been at par with countries like China or the US. Globally, firms are generating 13 times more patents per $1 billion compared to the Indian companies. Secondly, there is the legacy of the license Raj still looming over our heads. Because after we got our independence, till 1991, India operated under a system of central planning that was known as the license Raj. Basically, the government used to control and strictly regulate who could enter, who could expand, or who could diversify in almost every industry. And although this was abolished in 1991, some of the large conglomerates of today have their DNA rooted in this system. And they built their initial fortunes during that era. Moreover, after the liberalization happened in 1991, India didn't go through a traditional industrialization phase. It just leapfrogged into the service sector. And while this service sector generated immense wealth, that was not due to innovation. That was more because India leveraged its cheap labor and low wages. Next is the availability of venture capital. Innovation requires capital that is abundant, risk tolerant, and patient. The US VCs have the deepest pockets in the world. They have specialized funds for every niche, whether it is AI, whether it is biotech, whether it is fusion energy. ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI, raised billions of dollars before they even had a revenue model. Can you imagine something like that happening in India? Can you imagine someone backing a startup like that in India? OpenAI, before having a revenue model solely on the promise of its technology, could raise billions of dollars. We do have our own VCs here in India, but they have a very low risk appetite and are more willing to invest in consumer tech, things like quick commerce, edtech, fintech, or companies that are willing to replicate successful models of China and the US. So we see that there is a comprehensive ecosystem for startups in the US. They have favorable bankruptcy laws for which companies are able and willing to take risks. They have special grants for universities under which they are allowed to retain the intellectual property of innovations that are done through federal money. This has led to immense revenue streams in universities like Stanford and the MIT. Even startups like Google, Genentech, Moderna, these are direct results of this framework. They attract the best people from the world. So the US is definitely much ahead of the game. But all is not doom and gloom in case of India. If we see IIT Madras is a bright spot. There are over hundreds of deep tech startups that are happening in IIT Madras. There are examples like Agnikul Cosmos, which has its own private satellite launching. They are doing 3D printed rockets. Then there is Palani Technologies that are doing underwater robotics. So there are these amazing examples that are doing great work in terms of deep tech, innovation, AI. Then there is Anirveda, the YouTube channel. Lame joke. And the $1 trillion 10 crore rupees calculation is in the comments. You can check it out.